In 2018, ransomware advanced significantly and is now capable of taking out infrastructure and operations across the globe. As a result, many organizations are bogged down in reactive work and often overlook the value of crucial information. In Domain Tools' Threat Intelligence Report, learn how to uncover some of the most critical insights from your organization's alerts and indicators that will allow you to shift to a more proactive posture. To download this white paper, please visit securityweekly.com/domain tools. Let the team at Black Hills Information Security test your defenses. With over 10 years of experience in penetration testing, red teaming, and threat hunting, the testers at Black Hills will help you find the holes in your security before the bad guys do. The team at Black Hills cares about educating and sharing their knowledge by creating countless blogs, open source tools, and webcasts for you to learn more about the tradecraft of pen testing and red teaming. Visit securityweekly.com/BHIS to join their mailing list and view the latest blogs and webcasts from Black Hills Information Security. Recorded Future. They help security teams make more confident decisions faster. Recorded Future's technology automates broad collection and analysis of cyber threat data and delivers the rich external context you need to understand alerts and emerging threats. With real-time threat intelligence from Recorded Future, security teams respond to threats 63% faster and find undetected threats 10 times quicker. To get started, go to recordedfuture.com/securityweekly and sign up for the Recorded Future Cyber Daily. Every day, you'll receive an email with the top results for trending technical indicators, cyber news, exploited vulnerabilities, suspicious IP addresses, and more. Subscribe today and stay ahead of cyber attacks. Well, welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. Interesting note, our sponsor, Recorded Future. If you saw the news, I believe today is when I first saw it, so it must have happened either yesterday or today. Insight Partners has acquired Recorded Future for $780 million, so congrats to Recorded Future. Nice. For a really fantastic...
Insight Partners, why does that name sound familiar?
They've purchased a couple other... I didn't look into it, but I believe they purchased other security companies in the past. So, yeah. If you're going to Las Vegas for Black Hat and or DEF CON, we'll be there too. If you're interested in doing an interview with us, if you work in the security industry or work for a security vendor, rather, and you want to do an interview with us, tell the world about what you do and why you do it better than everyone else, you can do that and participate in our live broadcast that we'll be doing from Black Hat. We've rented or got a suite in the Mandalay Bay. We're going to be doing recordings there as well as live shows for the first time in some time. We have 5 interview slots left. They're going fast. And Paul Security Weekly slots to fill up. So go to securityweekly.com/booking. Encourage your organization, again, if you work for a security vendor, to do that so we can hang out at Black Hat in Las Vegas. Dave Boucha is a senior engineer at SaltStack. Dave is one of the 3 original engineers at SaltStack, hired by its founding members and has been involved in many aspects of the growth of the company. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be on, Paul.
It's nice to have you. I would like you to start, Dave, actually by talking about what SaltStack does, and then kind of talking about your open source component and your commercial component, kind of putting some separation behind those and like what problems each one solves.
Great. I'd love to do that. So Salt is designed to enable you to manage all of your infrastructure across your entire organization. Salt was designed originally to, its very core, to have really fast remote execution, so you can manage your servers, desktops, switches, and things, and do so at scale, tens of thousands of servers, and quickly.
So Dave, a lot of people today are using a lot of other kind of frameworks for that, right?
Sure.
So Salt, I mean, can we talk about some of the comparisons just to put it in context? Like if you're using some other kind of thing, you should also consider Salt, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people are using like Puppet, Chef, Ansible, some other tools by EMC and things like that for managing infrastructure.
Gotcha.
And, that's some of our competitors in a lot of those areas there.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, and so my experience, I started looking into some of those other frameworks. I was like, wow, this is like, it's a commitment, dude. I think one of the things that's great about Salt is it's I think much easier to get started in the Salt environment, right?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously I have, a lot more experience with it, but it's literally like, 30 seconds to get a Saltmaster and minions up and running, connected, that type of thing.
That's awesome.
I actually spent, at a previous job before I started at Salt, I had spent literally 2 days trying to get another product up, basically failed, spent another half day on another one, and just gave up and went back to bash scripts.
Yeah. Okay. So our experiences are, it makes me feel better. Our experiences are similar. Now, you have an open source component and, of course, a commercial component. What are the kind of goals for each one of those?
So yeah, Salt is our open source product. It's Apache licensed on the Apache 2.0 license. We have hundreds of contributors from companies and organizations around the world. And it's a really powerful tool because you get to use the experience of huge companies like LinkedIn, Google, Wikipedia, big banks and things to, they're using this to manage their infrastructure right now. You can reuse that experience and expertise locally. SaltStack Enterprise is in addition to that, so it sits above your existing Salt infrastructure, so it's really easy to plug in to what you're already doing, and it enables things like role-based access controls, allows you to scale out horizontally, it gives you a bigger picture and better kind of single pane view of your entire infrastructure across your whole organization.
And what I love about that, Dave, what you just said, is oftentimes what I recommend to our listeners, and it's not always an easy transition, right? But they'll come to me with a problem, and I said, well, you can solve this problem with open source, and you're going to run into maybe some things that you're going to need an enterprise product, right, to move to, as you said, like role-based access control, right? But to prove it to your management, you have this problem. You're going to take an open source tool. You don't take any money out of the budget, right? You can go implement this open source tool. Then you can present to your management. You're like, look, this is what we did. Now, if you like that, we can now continue down the path. And what Dave just said was you can get the enterprise and put it right on top of it, and you're just kind of off to the races, which isn't always the case, and which is great. Yeah.
So one thing that's really nice about adding Salt to your infrastructure is, so when you're adding SaltStack in, just our open source product to your existing systems, you don't have to have a big cutover and rip everything else out. Salt has plugins and modules to interact with Puppet, Chef, Ansible, all kinds of tools like that. And so your existing things can continue to work, and Salt just adds additional functionality. And it's the same thing with SaltStack Enterprise. It's literally a 2-minute install, and you're up and running with all the enterprise addition to Salt, the open source product.
Now, Dave, I'm a Linux guy, right? I maintain a lot of Linux boxes, and I've got some very fundamental requirements. I want all my Linux boxes, I want them to update packages on a regular basis. I want to remove users that shouldn't be there anymore, right? I maybe want to audit some of my SSH files and remove things from authorized keys, like basic cleanup. That's what I'd use Salt, the open source version, to start with, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, I helped set up, still partially run some of our internal infrastructure, like repo.saltstack.com, where we host all of our packages and things, and are also our enterprise download site. And we had that exact thing. So I have a list of approved users. We have a repo with their public keys. And as employees leave, I remove them from that list, and then I apply that state to those systems, and they completely goes through and removes all users who aren't on my whitelist, and also sets up their user accounts and keys for people that I add to that. And so it's really easy. I don't have to worry about going through, having some server that I've missed, and I know what the configuration is at all times.
I think there's a lot of people today, right, that have that list of servers that you SSH to and do the same repetitive task. Or maybe you try to script it with Bash, right? But you run into limitations in doing that. So you obviously go to reach out for a framework. So it's nice to know that's the use case. I like it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. In fact, that works for network devices and things as well. So, a lot of people go out and they'll have a configuration, and then they've tested it. Now they go out and do 30, 100 Cisco switches, and invariably they'll misplace, or misspell something, put a wrong IP address, hit 0 twice or something, and Salt allows you to define that in a clean, descriptive list, and then apply that across. So you can pre-approve everything. You can have your network experts, tell you, okay, this is the exact configuration we need, and then that's what your switches are actually receiving. Same thing with your servers and that type of thing. That's what they're getting. So a lot of people that they'll rotate their SSH private keys,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly they don't have access. Well, they have to let us know what their new public key is, and then we can update that across the whole infrastructure, and I know we have the correct one.
It's really interesting. Cisco used to have a product for that, and ironically, it was called Cisco Works. And I don't know to like bash Cisco, but like it didn't work all that great, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have experience with that.
And they're often very expensive too.
Yes. So the open source version can do that with Cisco switches?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. That's
fantastic. We
fantastic.
integrate with, we have modules that work directly with a number of switches, Cisco, Juniper, Palo Alto, and then we also have modules that, so that we can manage all their firmware versions and things like that. In fact, we did a big project with IBM Cloud where we're managing upwards of 80,000 switches, Cisco switches, and I think some Palo Alto, I believe, and upgrading their firmware versions that were very, very old up to up-to-date versions. And I can't remember exactly how many man hours they said that they saved, but it was into the millions of dollars of just manpower they saved by not having to go out and manually do that or trying to script it in other ways.
That's fantastic.
So now my next question would be sort of along those lines about that man hours saved and doing those configurations, users, so forth. What are some of the feature sets going forward with some of the cloud providers like AWS, for example?
Yeah, so we have a lot of integrations with, I think it's like 16 or 17 different cloud providers. A lot of those are community provided. And so you can spin up VMs, manage VPCs, load balancers, all that kind of thing. A lot of that we do in-house. A lot of that's also done in conjunction with community. Lyft, for example, has done a lot of work adding execution modules and states for AWS, for example, because they use AWS, I think exclusively. And so that's what we have that really nice integration with our community. Other people are able to go in and add additional functionality and bug fixes and things like that, and we get to work in conjunction with our customers in that manner.
Now, Dave, are you trapped in a shipping container?
I was going to ask the same. I was going to say the same thing, because if your office is in a shipping container, tell me more.
Yeah, that's like really cool.
It's kind of like what's that TV show?
The Silicon Valley, where he gets trapped in the shipping container and he gets sent off because Yeah, no, we actually have in our office, there's a shipping container. It's cut into two, and they have doors on here. We have air conditioning and everything, and lights, power. So it really is a shipping container.
It's a shipping container, painted teal blue on the outside.
That's awesome.
And, I've been trying to get them to put some more sound proof. I have some on one side over here, but we
no, that's awesome.
There's Ryan. I don't know if you can see his video. He's showing me inside the shipping container here. So it was actually here when we moved into this office. So
that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, there's a huge uptick in folks building with shipping containers and those types of things. And I've actually priced out one to be able to put storage and that type of stuff, like long-term, nice, well-painted type of stuff. And it just hasn't worked out. But I did find some office space that might.
If you need help deploying your containers, Larry, I've done that this week.
Yeah,
I'm deployed in a container.
So. Oh, I love it.
You know what, Dave? Now I'm taking you up on that. I'm going to help you deploy my shipping container.
Yes, yeah, I signed myself up for something. It's not me sitting behind a keyboard. Dave, did you have now you have some demos or examples of using the open source and the commercial? We've largely talked about the open source one. I want to talk about the commercial version as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So our repo, let me go ahead and share my screen here.
And while you're doing that, I've actually already pulled out Slack and talked to one of our developers at work and our sysadmin and said, one, why didn't we think of this before? Put all the damn public SSH keys in a GitLab repository internally. And two, we need to check out OpenSalt.
Yep.
Yeah.
At least to start.
Yeah. The other thing too is Mayhall, who I worked with at Tenable, works at Salt. Now Mayhall was responsible at Tenable for the configuration management components inside of the Nessus product. Mayhall and I worked very closely as he was releasing new features. I would test them. we would write blog posts about them. Sometimes I would write it. Sometimes Mayhol would write. So either of us wrote it, we would review each other's work. Worked very closely with Mayhol. It's one of the nicest people you ever want to meet, and one of the smartest people, especially in this area. And now works for Salt. So immediately I was like, well, yeah, that's all the validation I needed, for the products. But Dave's going to show you some of the open source and commercial products as well.
Yeah, Mayhol is fantastic. I love him. He's done an amazing job here at SaltStack since he came over from General. So really happy to have him on board. He's been terrific. So Salt, the open source project, lives on GitHub. If you go to github.com/saltstack/salt is our main repository. Again, this is Apache 2.0. All Salt work happens here. So if you come in here, you can see we have a number of pull requests, issues, all of our codes here. And, just like all open source software, this gives us the ability to really work in conjunction with our users. It's not just sitting up on a hill pronouncing what we think they should be able to use. People are building all kinds of amazing things with Salt, and it really is it's a powerful tool. So I have some examples here, things we can do. So when you log into your Salt master, so I've already had some servers set up. If you wanted, I could set up a new server and connect it into my Salt master. We could, play that if you'd like. But when I first started using Salt, I was blown away because suddenly I felt like I had all this power at my command. So here I'm running Salt. I have a target, which is asterisk, which is everything. And then you can call any kind of a Salt execution module that I want. So, for example, if I want to get the version of Salt that's running, you can see here, I get this data back. It's telling me that I'm running 2019.2.0 on most of them. This one's on 2018.3.3. And Salt ships with hundreds of modules that do a variety of things for anything on your system. Install software, install file, or lay down files, change configuration files, things like that.
So Dave, I don't have to do any coding at this point, right? Because I remember back in the day we were using one that was based on Perl. Basically you had to modify a bunch of Perl code to accomplish the same thing. And this is in 2001, 2002, right? Here the modules are predefined and you're kind of off to the races. And if you want to customize it, I'm assuming you can write code.
And I'm going to call shenanigans right off the bat because you can't modify Perl. You have to rewrite it from the beginning.
It's exactly my point, Larry.
Well, for example, let's create a simple Salt state, right? We'll call this. Let's see. We'll do this on a CentOS server. Since web.sls. Come in here, I know the package name is HTTPD on CentOS, and then I'm going to call the package.installed state. And obviously, you can make this much more complicated. There's a ton of other options you could pass in. Maybe I want to actually lay down, some set up WSGI in a Django application, a database, and that type of thing. But just to get Apache installed, that's all I got to run. So now I can come here and I can call this on. Let's see. Let's make sure I have a demo sent is a.
Now, have you had to install the Salt agent on all of the systems that you're managing, Dave?
These ones I did here, yes.
Okay.
So Salt works in agentless or with an agent. So
gotcha.
We have. So typically, if you want to scale out and you want the really fast speed, you want to use the agent.
Yeah, of course.
And so that gives you a lot of power there. But there are times when it's convenient to use do this over SSH. So you can run over SSH or WinRM for Windows, and it'll push things across, kind of like Ansible does. It'll push across any files it needs and do all your configurations and things. But you are limited by the number of SSH connections that your master can control. Same with WinRM. As well as the speed of SSH, which is a bit slower. So, but it is convenient. But everything else works the same. So all of your same state files, commands, and things run the same on agentless or with an agent.
Sometimes I actually prefer the agent because it means I don't have to do as much authentication kind of stuff. Because if it's SSH, right, I gotta trust a key to all of my Linux systems. With an agent, I can just deploy an agent as a package, and I'm off to the races, right?
Correct. You're off to the races. Your keys and certificates are rotated by default once every 24 hours. With SSH, you have to rotate those keys yourself manually or set up a system to do that. I know it's not the end of the world. There's definitely occasionally some benefits to that.
Sure.
But you really gain in speed, scale, and in some ways better security as far as that goes. So here I've run state.apply on that file I just ran, and I ran it in test equals true mode. And so now it's telling me that, hey, I would have installed Apache. And so I just come in here and I can now run it, and that will now tell me this. Well, right now it's downloading the packages from the internet, installing it, through Yum and that type of thing. Now, if you remember when I did the install, it was package.installed. So here we can see this is the result we got back. It includes some other packages, their dependencies, and we have a history of all that happened now. Now, one thing that's nice about Salt's states is they are generally platform independent. So you notice it wasn't yum.installed, it was package.installed. So this will do the right thing on your operating system. So I could name this, I can make this dynamic so it gives the right package name based off of the operating system. So if you're on Ubuntu or Debian server, it would say Apache 2, for example. Package.install will work correctly everywhere. So whether you're on Windows, Linux, NetBSD, or CentOS 7, it'll use the correct package manager for you.
Excellent.
So that's a simple example there. So that server's up and running. Let's get the IP address of this thing. And grab this IP. And we can see that now we have, let's see. Let me grab that again real quick.
Good evening, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't.
I can't do that, Dave.
Hal,
open the pod bay doors, damn it.
It's not like you haven't heard that in this industry before.
No, I get it all the time. Okay, well, it's not one to come up for some reason. Oh, you know what? It didn't start it because it's CentOS, right? So
and CentOS.
I'd have to enable it, but that's just a simple addition here. So no, I feel like I gotta fix this.
I love it. Yeah, you can tell Dave's been working with Linux and technology for a long time. He's like, I need to fix this. This condition cannot exist.
I gotta make it work. Yep.
I love it.
All right, so now that will start up the service. Okay, make sure that works here. I would do this totally on the fly. This is a completely live environment. Okay, so now we can see here, the original state that I had in there said it's already installed, right? So it went out, checked in Yum, said, oh yeah, Apache is already installed. Then it saw that, the service is not running and it wasn't enabled. So it went and enabled it and set it to run. And now we get our repo there. So
yeah,
as you can see, it's not a canned demo. This is live.
Sure.
Real stuff here. So.
Dave, I'm assuming many of us, right, listening, or if you're just learning and you're listening, right, you install a package. There's typically other things you need to do when you install it, right? I want a custom configuration file. I want it to start. Not only do I want it to start, but I want it to start every time I reboot the system. And those are all things, I'm assuming, Dave, you can add to your Salt configuration to say, go deploy this and like do all these custom things, basically.
Exactly. And that's what I did here. That second time I went into that file, the first piece, just install the software, and then I added the software, or I added the setting to start on reboot and actually start up the service right away. If I run that same thing on Ubuntu or a Debian system, it'll automatically restart the service up, and so it's a little shorter because it just starts it by default.
And it's interesting. I think a lot of people look at this as a systems administration thing, totally a security thing, right? Like we were talking about Cisco switches before and working with the network team. When I worked at the university, right, I would research what was the more secure configurations to what we're running. And I'm like, oh, by the way, guys, like on all 4,000 of the Cisco devices that you have, we need to make sure that all these configuration items exist. Right? We tested in the lab. And then I'm like, we need to push that out to all the systems. And so this is perfect for that. Love it.
Yep, exactly. And there's a lot of aspects to security. So one is, making sure things are installed, that type of thing, but also you need to make sure you have versions that are acceptable.
Yep.
There's a lot of, some famous exploits where they, broke in through, a vulnerable version of struts, and that's out there for months, right? And they knew about it, but they didn't have the time or the ability to test that. And Salt gives you the ability to go out and check and find those versions. So
awesome.
instead of having to wait, depend on a database or something, I can come in here and say salt star package.list packages. And actually, I want this in JSON format. So I'm going to put out JSON. This is going to go out and give me every single piece of software that's installed on each of those servers and their versions. So I could take this, drop that into a database, drop it into Elasticsearch, something like that, and view these things and make sure. So if I want to verify that I'm running, a certain version of Apache or Nginx or above, I can go and make those comparisons and verify that I'm there.
Pipecrypt struts.
Yeah, I would use a Python script for that. I think in the past I was a lot more heavily, kind of bash, like you're saying, grep, right? But I would take that JSON, working with JSON data in Python is actually awesome. Yeah. It's awesome.
I'm so proud of you, Paul.
Right, Joff? I've come a long way, right? Now I'm like, nope, it's all Python now. I love it.
And the struts vulnerability was the Equifax hack, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And Salt is also, again, very pragmatic. So Tom Hatch, our founder, he often would tell us, when in doubt, shell out, So there's a lot of people that have like a PowerShell script that goes out and talks to all the different servers and runs a command. Salt makes it really easy to just take the piece that has the logic you want and push that shell script out and run that, whether it's PowerShell or Bash, and run that across your infrastructure. And that speeds it up because you run that in parallel instead of serially. And Salt is much faster at actually pushing those files out and running them. And then you have those collated in a nice output like you have here. And you can also just run any shell script using the command.run item here. Some big companies will actually blacklist most one from the command line because you can obviously shoot yourself in the foot. But I can come in here, run this, and I'm getting that output from each of those servers. And of course, that's going to fail on Windows, on the Windows server because it's a Windows server.
So, Dave, this is awesome functionality. What does the commercial version, get me? And can we see a demo of that as well?
Absolutely. So, adding the commercial version is a simple matter of adding a simple plugin to your SaltMaster, and then it connects into your own instance of SaltStack Enterprise. And what's nice about that, it's not an either-or situation. You use both. And so everything I'm doing right now on my SaltMaster, I can continue to do. If I personally like to be on the command line a lot, and I can continue to do that. But now I can come into my SaltStack Enterprise server. Actually, let me pull it up. And now I have additional functionality. I have role-based access controls. I have a database of all the commands that have been run. So we have a history of every job that's been run, its results, and its who did that, all the history and that type of thing. So here we have a view. Here's all my servers. Here I have, you can see here a number of Linux servers. I have a Palo Alto firewall, Windows Server 2016, Ubuntu server, an Oracle Linux server. Salt runs on pretty much every operating system out there, including AIX, Solaris, most of the BSDs, things like that. And I can take a target, which allows you to, give you, choose specific groups of servers based on any criteria you can think of, even like location and applications you're running, that type of thing.
And sorry, Dave, when you say role-based access control, if I'm in an enterprise environment, I'm deploying Salt and Salt Enterprise, I can say my Windows administrators have access to their Windows systems, and they're in a group, and Linux and Dev and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I could say I have Windows servers, and they can only run the Windows servers in this specific data center or these desktops in this specific office building. You can get very fine-grained in what you give them to.
Awesome.
And you can also limit them to what jobs they could run. So for example, here internally, we have some documentation writers, and they're fairly technical, but some of them just even like logging in to a Saltmaster over SSH is kind of a stretch. And so we give them the ability to log into SaltStack Enterprise. They can, we have a job built for them. They can run a job that will pull their changes from Git, build the documentation, deploy that to a staging server. Then they can review it. Engineers then review the documentation for technical accuracy. And then when it's all approved, they would go in and run a different job. And it would literally look something like this. Come here, pick a job, and choose that. And they run that. And now they don't have to come to me and beg me to do the deploy. They can come in self-service, but I'm also limiting their ability to get into problems and break things. You know, they can do one job on one specific server, and I'm not the bottleneck anymore for them.
Yeah, and that's great for junior people and interns too, right? If you don't have that level of control, I've run into situations where I come in, I'm like, oh, we're deployed on Amazon RDS. I'm like, that's
you know, right? Paul, this is funny. It reminds me of an old Mike Poore comment. It's like, if you can be replaced with a Perl script, Mike used to say. In this case, we'll say Python script. Then you need to up your game.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's really nice because this integrates with your existing Saltmasters and all your tooling you have there. So your really advanced Salt users that are, doing all kinds of amazing things on the command line things, and they don't want to be restricted. You're not taking away their rights to do that, but you give extra capabilities to these people here. On top of that, it's a really nice API. So everything that happens here in the GUI goes through our API. There's no secret, access that it has. So anything you're seeing here happen in the GUI, you can do through Salt's API. So you add SaltStack Enterprise into your system, all your existing tools can now hit that API. It respects the role-based access control. So you could give Jenkins rights to run one job, maybe to deploy some code or pull data from somewhere. And you're giving all your existing tools greater power that Salt provides. So it plays well with everything else that you have running.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So one little addition we recently added was we call SecOps. And SecOps is our security tool that allows you to go out and verify that your systems are compliant with a policy that you create. So if I come in here and here I have a policy of assigned to one server, I can run this assessment. It's going to go out and verify that I'm compliant with all of the CentOS 7 benchmark items that CIS, the Center for Internet Security, provides. And you get a nice report, a view into where you're at. And not only do you get to see where you're at as far as your compliance, but if I come in and look at these items, you can actually come in and fix those. So, going in on a Windows server, going in and checking one box to increase the security on something is easy on one server. But if you have 500 desktops, you have to do that too. That can take a lot of time.
And Dave, I would imagine this is what Mayhole is working on, right? Because it's very similar to what Mayhole is working on at Tenable, basically comparing your systems to a benchmark, doing that configuration auditing. The advantage here with Salt is now I can actually go in and fix those problems all on the same platform.
Exactly. So here I can come in, and I know, say I've tested this before, I can come in here, and click remediate. And remediate doesn't mean give you a PDF that you have to go and give to your sysadmins, and they groan and they have to go out and figure out how to fix this. Salt goes out and actually fixes it for you. And so right here, I'm doing this on one server, but this could be 500 servers, 5,000 servers, and you've just taken your existing staff and given them a greater ability to make sure that your systems are compliant and remain compliant in the future without slowing them down. Security is no longer an afterthought. They can take care of that as they go along, and it makes it a lot easier and possible to do.
Now, Dave, I'm certain that when you make a change on 5,000 servers, that 100% of the time, 100% of those changes aren't 100% successful, right? And that's where the logging component comes in. I'm assuming it gives you a report, and it's like, hey, like these like a dozen servers or so like had an issue, and you can go in and troubleshoot.
Exactly. So each of these jobs are just regular Salt jobs. So I can come in here and see that I ran this policy remediation here. And here's the job ID. I can come in here. I can look at each of these items in this job for all those servers. I can even look at the raw data coming out in JSON format. And so I can see, what did fail. Maybe some of the servers were down. Some might be in a bad state. There's a number of reasons why things break.
There's always something. Right.
Yeah. Especially at any kind of scale.
Yeah.
In fact, some of our front end developers, a few of the newer ones hadn't really done a whole lot of infrastructure work in the past. And one time we ran into a bug where if one of the servers didn't return data, nothing would appear in our this job list.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know if I should be revealing our dirty laundry, but it was an early bug before we got along very far. So the item wouldn't show up here at all. And I was like, yeah, that's a problem. And they're like, well, it only happens if one of the servers doesn't work. I was like, dude, anybody with more than like 5 servers is going to have, especially in thousands, there's always going to be a number of things that don't work for any number of reasons. And that can't be an issue. This has to be fixed. They're like, oh, okay. So sometimes there's some training.
It happened to me today. It's like Jenkins was trying to push a release with credentials that were expired, right? Like that's, and that's not even like a bug of like I updated something and it issued like it threw some kind of weird error. That was just like a natural progression of operations. Like credentials expire and they have to be updated, kind of thing.
Yep. Other services you use update their APIs and need to be updated accordingly. Certificates expire. There's network segments go down. There's a plethora of reasons why things break. So,
but this gives you visibility into those issues, right?
Correct. And so that allows you as a sysadmin to then go in and investigate and see why that's happening. Maybe your salt state isn't taking some corner case into account. You can update that, or maybe you just literally have some hardware that has died and you got to go track that down.
Right. Yeah, that's the system not responding kind of thing.
Yeah.
That happened to me recently too. I don't know what happened. Like over the weekend, just the firewalls turned off and when they lost power. Over the long holiday weekend.
I was gone in Amsterdam and I came into my office and 3 of my monitors were off.
Right?
Two of them turned back on. The third one had to be replaced.
Yeah.
Fail open or fail.
Yep.
Stuff happens.
Yep. I figured out why the third one didn't turn on though.
Why is that?
Cat peed on it.
Oh.
I was going to make a guess, Larry. It wasn't plugged in.
Nope. Cat peed on it and it dripped down into where all the switches and stuff are. And my wife said, oh yeah, I was in here like Tuesday and it was like flickering on and off and stuff and I just ignored it. I'm like,
That was like we're at university and like we'd lose like a whole section of the network and they'd say, oh, it was backhoe attenuation because they were doing construction and they dug up some fiber.
Yep.
Right. I don't know what you call cat pee attenuation.
Hey, I've got, you tell university stories. We once dunked like an entire roof full of rain and gutters and shit into a wiring closet that had a Cisco Catalyst 6509 in it.
Oh.
Now, it was running distribution routing for, 15 buildings.
Yep.
And it was running VSS. Remember the VSS days? So it was fully redundant, right? It turns out when you pour like entire buckets of water in the top of the electronics, failover never happens cleanly.
You'd think with all that water it would be clean, but apparently it was really dirty water.
Clean about it.
Now, Dave, to this point, which is kind of interesting, is the Salt Enterprise like a monitoring as well? Like you're constantly running jobs, see if things are there. Do people use it for kind of like monitoring infrastructure as well as changing configuration?
So that's a great question. So it's not a monitoring system like out of the box. It's not a new relic replacement or thing like that. But because Salt has such deep ties and ability to get information about your systems, a lot of people will use Salt to get data and then send that into their monitoring system.
Okay. Yeah.
Visualize that. So whether that's disk usage and maybe just metrics of your application that's running locally, Salt can pull that out. You can set things to run on any kind of schedule you want, minute, down to the second intervals to hourly, daily, weekly, that type of thing. And so it can definitely be part of your monitoring, but we're not focusing on specifically like dashboarding and things like that.
Right. Yeah, but I like it as an extension because I'm actually using a monitoring platform today that on certain platforms has trouble getting CPU temperature. And I think I'd much rather use something like Salt and Salt Enterprise to do that rather than the monitoring solution and kind of feed it into it.
Yeah. Salt has the concept of event-based, what's the word? Not monitoring, event-based actions that are happening on your system. So we have a thing called a beacon that you can enable on your Salt minions, the servers you're managing. And we have beacons that watch for a number of things. You can watch disk usage, services, file changes, whole directory changes. And whenever a beacon sees that thing, it will then send events on the event bus, because we have this connection between your servers and the Salt master. And then on the Salt master, we have a thing called a reactor that you can configure to look for certain events that are coming through, and then you give it a list of things to do. So, for example, we have a customer, it's a clothing retailer, and they, in one of their shipping centers, there's a Windows server system that kind of managed, I don't even know all the details, but basically it was like the workflow of, getting items picked, boxed, shipped, and sent out the door. And they had a problem where it would occasionally crash and that service would go down, and they couldn't ship anything until they got that service back up and running. And so they were able to have a beacon running that was watching that service. When it would go down, it would send an event to their monitoring system, notify humans through some paging system they had. And then there was a known fix. So they would go out and Salt itself would go out, update some database entries, and attempt to restart the service, which usually worked. And so something that often would take, tens of minutes to, an hour or two, depending on how soon they could get a human to come fix it.
Right.
Now it would be fixed in a matter of seconds. And it was the rare case where it couldn't fix it. So they saved money. They kept that downtime to a minimum until they could get that application fixed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the use cases for this type of software, Dave, are just, endless, right?
Yeah. In fact, I have a demo that I give at conferences that's designed to be, out of, nothing you would want to do in production, but I have things where someone logs into a production server, for example, then have a red hue light that turns on, and then when I log out, it turns green again.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it texts somebody saying, hey, so-and-so, such user has logged into your system. I modify a file. It shows up on a web page saying, this file has been modified. I can even receive incoming information. I have a Twilio connector, and audience members can text pictures, text, and it'll display those pictures on this web page dynamically. If they send a color as part of the text, it'll change the background to that color. I do ask people to keep it G-rated because usually you're often recorded.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly here. It would be totally...
not something you do at Black Hat.
Yeah, totally. I'd get a hold of that. And
it would be, it would be not PG.
Yep. But it's a lot of fun, and it kind of gives a kind of bigger view that you can do incredibly dynamic things and unique things. So Salt's not a tool that comes in and gives you just this built-in functionality. It makes it really easy to add that last 10-15% of things that are unique to your infrastructure, to your applications, to your organization.
Yeah, certainly. I think every organization has that. I mean, when Dave says stuff like that, I think of it in the Security Weekly context, right? Like, if we push a show and it fails, I want to see an alert. If there's a temperature issue, while we're doing a show, so there's all these specific things that can be monitored, and not just for operations but for security as well, which is important. I mean, and the two go hand in hand, right? Certainly, some events could be security related. A CPU overheating or high utilization could be an indication that someone's hacked the system, right? Or it could be an indication of a problem. So,
yeah. In fact, our CTO just is adding a feature right now that I'm testing with that uses TensorFlow with machine learning to monitor all the processes that are on a system, and then it'll then output information about like new processes that are anomalous. Like, hey, we haven't seen this before, and we even have a reactor that can go out and kill it. The first couple iterations were kind of funny because you had it killing things, but then it kept popping up like systemd as, anomalous process. So it kind of caused some problems.
Yeah, but so you know what? I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that in a lot of cases. Like
some people would approve.
I know. I miss a knit, but we need T-shirts. I miss a knit, but
a support group
shows the flexibility Salt has that we can actually just tie into TensorFlow, use that data, and find maybe it's a Bitcoin mining application that's got installed through a CVE in some application you're running, and see that, hey, this is not normal. And then send a notification, to have a human decide what to do.
And one thing I always like too, David, I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure you could configure Salt to do this, right? If on a Linux system there was any processes running that weren't associated with packages installed from the known repository, right? Like someone compiled and installed something or stuck a binary on there and it's running process, but it's not associated with any software that was installed through the package repo.
That's a really interesting use case. So we don't have that specifically built right now, but that would actually be something that would be a beacon could run and is well within Salt's capabilities to do. These beacons are very, very simple to write. So. Yeah. That's actually a really interesting use case. I actually think I'm gonna play around with that and get
there. You go. There's your homework, Dave. I know you're from everything you've described. I know it's possible. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Very
awesome.
Cool.
And so, Dave, where can folks get? Folks can go to securityweekly.com/Salt Security. Did I get that right? SaltStack. No. What is it? Sorry. Rewind. Don't listen to that last part. securityweekly.com/SaltStack, right? Also, make sure you go to securityweekly.com/webcasts. SaltStack is doing a webcast with us where we're going to dig more into all of the things that we talked about tonight in even more detail in a webcast. And I highly encourage everyone to check it out because it's going to be a lot of fun.
And if you do go to the other one that you shouldn't go to, but you should go to the real one for that URL, you don't want to see Paul's rewrite rules for mod security.
Yes.
Or mod rewrite for that matter.
securityweekly.com/SaltStack. Awesome. And you have if you want the open source version, right, you can find that in your Git repository you mentioned earlier.
Yep. GitHub.com/SaltStack/salt.
Sweet.
And then our enterprise customers can go to saltstack.com and get you through someone that can help you out there as well.
Sweet. Excellent. Yeah, and I'm assuming you can do demo. If people are interested in the enterprise version, you guys have demos available that you can be scheduled through the website.
Absolutely. Yep. We'd love to help people out in that aspect for sure.
Sweet. Fantastic. Dave, thank you so much for appearing on Paul Security Weekly.
My pleasure. I really have enjoyed this time, and it's good to talk to you.
Outstanding. With that, we'll take a short break, come back with the security news for this week. Stay tuned.